Morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Sutherland. I'm the chair of PRCA Scotland, and we've been delivering some great webinars for members. And because they're online, it means that it's not just for Scottish members. It means that any of the members can join wherever you're from. So are you ready to learn some magic from the business development magician? That is Darryl from Hard Numbers. So Darryl has just launched his own new agency after being business development director at Hotwire for a number of years. And the new agency is lean and ready to start chasing for new business. So who better than to share some tips and chat about how we can go about business development and really building businesses after the downturn that most of us have faced. So I would just like to hand over to Darryl now.
Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for making the time to join today. And I really hope that this is of some value to you all. So I will start by sharing my screen. If you can make me the host, please, Laura.
Oh my God, how do I do that?
Go to the bottom and go to participants. And then choose Darryl's name. And
where is Darryl? There he is. More and
make host.
Make host. There you are.
Oh, amazing. Thank you very much.
Wow, technology.
I know, it could catch on, this Zoom thing, you know.
I know.
I reckon it's got a fighting chance, hasn't it?
Doing well.
Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so that's the first commonly used Zoom bingo phrase of the day. Can you all see my screen? There's some people in the waiting room, Anna, just FYI. Do I have to let them in?
Yeah, you're in charge now.
Okay, wow. The power. Okay, so hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining today. Having talked this through with Laura, I think the purpose of today is basically how we're going to go about growing your businesses post the pandemic. A little bit about me before we get started. I set up my first business back in 2001, which was a tech, media and telecom specialist monitoring agency. I sold that to a business called Precise, which is now Kantar Media, in 2005, and I was group sales director of that business until the sale to WPP in 2014. I then set up the London office of a search engine marketing business called MediaWorks in 2014. I grew that from 0 in invoiced revenue to £1 million of invoiced revenue within 16 months, and then joined Hotwire and repeated the feat within 14 months there, and then joined the UK board of Hotwire. I just, as Laura said, started my own business, Hard Numbers, this week. If all that sounds rather grand, far and away my most important job is that I'm the dad of Halia Daphne Sparey, who is my pride, my joy, and my greatest achievement thus far. A little bit about Hard Numbers. We've been built from the ground up to offer high growth businesses marketing and communication support, and that is all ultimately designed to drive sales. We do loads of different stuff, whether that's account-based marketing or content creation or social selling, or media relations, or kind of doing the whole lot really to support high growth business to business clients. We really focus on measurement and really demonstrating a return on investment for our clients. And we go route one if we need to. So I'm very happy to pick up the phone, flash the phone and create leads for our clients if we have to, to make sure that we achieve whatever target we've been set by our clients. So number one rule that I could give you today for how to sell is to definitely not start by selling. The kind of worst sales experiences that anyone have, and you'll all have experienced this in the past, is when someone tries to sell to you before they've earned the right to sell to you. And I think that's a guiding principle to what I do. I had a chat with Richard yesterday, and he said that one of the things that I do is I go and talk to people where I might seemingly have no reason to to gain or benefit from a discussion with them. But you never know what the future holds or what serendipity might hold for you. I think one guiding principle I can give to all of you is definitely don't start by selling. What you should start by doing, don't be this guy. I don't know if you guys watch The Simpsons, but old Gil Gunderson, the worst sales guy in the world, he always tries to guilt people into buying stuff off him because he needs to hit his target or he needs to do something. That is definitely not the way to go about selling to anyone. The way I would recommend for anyone to go and sell anything to anyone really is start by, and this is going to seem really familiar to PR people, start by defining your prospect. So who are they? Who do you want to reach? And have a really, really clear idea of who it is that you want to market yourself to, right? You do not want to be all things to all people because you can't be. So really be honest about who your target market is and who you want to reach. And then, again, very familiar to PR people, what influences them? Who do they pay attention to? What do they read? Where do they hang out? All the rest of it. And then 3, start by listening. So pay attention to what they say, and I'll talk about this in a bit more detail. Key things that you need, the tools for you to have that help you be good at all of these things. 2 most important tools I have, and they're completely free to use, LinkedIn and Twitter. I would actually, a lot of people talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a brilliant way to get the really, like, the defined who, like who is the communications director of XYZ company. You can just search that on LinkedIn for free, right? And LinkedIn is great as an organic way of reaching the prospects. So, you know, I don't know if anyone saw it, but I posted about hard numbers launching this week, and that post has had 11,000, 12,000 views. Right? Organic reach on LinkedIn at the moment is still, you know, streets ahead of any other platform with the exception of TikTok at the moment. And if you're selling business to business, which we all are at the moment, LinkedIn, if you want organic reach, is the place to go. But Twitter, for me, is my absolute #1 go-to tool for loads of different reasons. I can follow people share things with Twitter that they don't share with their partners sometimes, right? Like their innermost thoughts and feelings and motivations and challenges and all the rest of it are all for the people of your prospects who are on Twitter. They're sharing them on Twitter right now. So Twitter for me is my #1 go-to tool for prospecting, because I can virtually network with people, even if I'm not able to network with them in person. I'll tell this to you, please don't tweet this to anyone else or tell anyone else I've done this, but I have pretended to be at award ceremonies in the past, right, that I haven't even been at, right? Because I just follow because for whatever reason I might have had to be at home to look after the little one or whatever, follow the hashtag of the awards that evening, look for who's won the awards, tweeted them to say congratulations and all the rest of it, and hope to see you at the bar later. I wasn't even at the awards. I wasn't even there, right? But that is one thing that I've, one way that I use Twitter. But I use Twitter in lots of different ways to build up a one-to-one connection with people, and then, talk with them, privately on DM or whatever. CRM is really important. I am a huge advocate of CRM, and it does not have to be expensive. HubSpot is completely free to use as a CRM. So, I'd really encourage you to look at that. If you haven't got budget for it, if you have, I would encourage you to use Salesforce. I used Salesforce for 10 years. It's the best CRM system on the market. It's absolutely brilliant. But if you want to get up and running, and if you want to be using a database quickly and easily, HubSpot is it's free to use and really easy to get started with. But then email marketing, MailChimp is free, integrates completely with HubSpot, so that's really valuable. Things that cost money but are really helpful: LinkedIn Sales Navigator enables you to search by role, by geography, by filter all that stuff, so you can get a really targeted list of people. Wizza, I only found out about this recently. Every day is a school day. WIZA, contact and email scraping tool, 15 cents a lead. Absolutely amazing piece of tech. An Autopilot, customized journeys for email marketing campaigns. Basically, if you want to get a bit smarter about email marketing, Autopilot is absolutely brilliant. Very easy to use in comparison to other email marketing automation platforms, and cheap in comparison as well. So, rule number 2, right? You get out what you invest. And that is both in terms of your money, your capital that you invest in tools and things like that to make you better at what you do. that is money that you invest in events and attending events, networking and all the rest of it. But more importantly than that, because most of you are billable time, it's about the time that you invest in stuff as well, right? And absolutely, the approach I'm going to tell you today is not a quick, it's not a get rich quick scheme. You know, it takes time and effort and the application of discipline to what you do, but it pays off in the end, I promise. So the 3 steps that we talked about earlier: define your ideal customer prospect, your ICP. People in account-based marketing talk in terms of ICP now, so the ideal customer prospect. So is there anyone on the call that would like to tell me in a bit more detail who they're trying to target, like what the verticals are that their PR agency is focused on?
I'm happy to.
Yeah, brilliant, please.
So I work, Limpia works with public sector mostly. So most of our clients are in healthcare, education, and now sort of moving into tourism.
Brilliant.
So
Okay.
NHS trusts, boards, that sort of thing.
Brilliant. Okay, so from memory, there's something like 226 clinical commissioning groups in the UK. They probably all have someone in a PR manager or comms director capacity. That's a brilliant, well-defined target audience right there, right? So you can search on LinkedIn for PR, communications, and media, and manager, director, all the rest of it, and you'll find yourself a list of 220 people there. If you then go and search those people on Twitter, you'll probably find that about 25 to 30% of them are on Twitter. So that is a perfect example of a really tightly, well-defined universe of prospects for you to go after. Anyone else got another example that they'd like to share with the group?
Yeah, I will.
Hey,
how are you?
good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. We target B2B tech companies, so namely in telecoms, fintech and enterprise tech.
Brilliant. Okay, so a bit of a broader target audience that you've got to go after there. So I'd probably start with, fintech financial services. There are, from memory, about 220 people, 215, 220 people with the job title CMO or CRO, Chief Marketing Officer or Chief Revenue Officer in fintech or financial services businesses in the UK. So that, again, is a brilliantly well-defined target audience for you to go after, and approach for your your services and stuff like that. I don't, off the top of my head, know the split of CMO to CRO within that audience, but that's exactly it. So for anyone, for any time you run, as with any marketing campaign at all, have a clear idea in your head of who it is that I'm trying to reach, right? So that's the first. Second thing then is, once you know who you're trying to reach, what influences them? So what do they read? Who do they follow online? Where do they hang out? Now more than ever, that's a virtual thing. What virtual meetups and webinars and things like that are happening in the sector. But obviously, once we get the opportunity to go out and network with people IRL again, then lots more opportunity opens up on that front. I am guilty of this. I am as guilty of this, if not more guilty of this than anyone else. Right? I probably go to too many, I'll spend my time in too many PR networking things and not enough vertical industry networking things. So if you have a very defined, tightly defined, vertical or verticals that you're targeting, try and make sure that you're spending your time where people in that industry spend their time as well, rather than just meeting with more PR people, right? Push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone and stuff like that to try to network yourself in those communities. Who are you already connected with? One of the things I did at Hotwire, right? So we had 70 staff in the UK. I got everyone to download their LinkedIn connections to an Excel spreadsheet. I then put them all into one great big Excel spreadsheet. I then did a VLOOKUP against all of our top 250 target prospects to see who is someone in our organization connected to at someone within one of our target prospects. The nature of the beast is now, you know, you are, I mean, it's something like 3.27 connections away from anyone on average. You know, you are not very far away from anyone you want to meet in terms of network connections and stuff like that, right? You or someone within your organization or someone you know is probably connected to someone you want to sell to. So that's a really, you know, really easy, completely free way to go and find how you can reach out to your target prospects. Then what do they care about and what's their pain point in their industry? And I'll talk about pain points in a little bit more detail. So why did I know how many CMOs and CROs are there in the fintech industry? Because I'm targeting the fintech financial services industry myself. I did a search on LinkedIn Sales Navigator the other day, and I've started building myself a Twitter list of all of the CMOs and CROs at fintech organizations. I've done the first 80, and of that, 24 of them are on Twitter. So I'm going to be adding more and more people to that list and following them on Twitter. About 25 to 30% of the people that you might want to reach, particularly because obviously it's used towards comms, are going to be on Twitter at any one time. Key thing is follow them, listen to them, understand their businesses, their challenges, right? Look for opportunities to engage and to help, but crucially, not to sell to them, right? Be present, be helpful, build your rapport, earn the right to have a conversation with them, rather than trying to sell to them. Key rule to live with all of this, right? You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. That is a pretty good way to start. So then you know who you want to reach. You know where they're at. You know all the rest of it. What are you going to do? How are you going to engage with your prospects? The key is we're my favorite scene in any movie of all time. Alec Baldwin coming in, tearing a sales team to bits in Glengarry Glen Ross. Bit of an old school approach to selling, bit of an old way of thinking. Always be closing, right? My mantra is always be getting commitment. I don't want to sell to someone the first day I meet them because I haven't earned the right to do it, right? But what I do want to get is their commitment to do something with me again. That might just be to connect with me on LinkedIn. That might be for me to send them some case studies of something that's relevant to something they told me about. That might be to connect them with someone that I think could be of use to them. That could be one of a million different things that I could be asking that person to commit to me, right? But basically, always be getting commitment. Whenever you meet someone, and at every stage, every touch point of your communication with them, be getting their commitment to do something else. Number one mistake that all PR people do when they try and sell is they finish a call and then they say, oh, I'll send you some dates for us to have another meeting about something on email. Do not do that. On the call, while you've got them, while you've got their attention, book your next meeting with them and send them a calendar invite while you're on the call for that next meeting. And I guarantee you that you will find that your your average length of time that something is in your pipeline will become shorter, right? Always, when you've got someone's time and attention, be getting their commitment to the next thing you want to do with them there and then. Don't wait till tomorrow. So how do we, at Hard Numbers, go about, what is our process? How do we do it? I'm not going to give you I'm not going to open the kimono fully. That's a horrible image, isn't it? I'm not going to show you absolutely everything that we do, but I'll give you an idea of how we go about what we do for us and for our clients. Number one, start with a pain point, right? This is what we did at Hotwire. When I was at Hotwire, we realized that in the fintech industry, time and time again, when we were talking to prospects, number one thing that we were getting back was there is not enough diversity in the fintech industry, particularly around the male-female gender divide, particularly in senior management and development roles. So we came up with this event called F in Fintech, which was to encourage women, females into the fintech and financial services space. The first event that we did had an absolutely unbelievable speaker panel from like Open North, Monzo, RBS, things like that, we had 65 people attend. We were turning people away from being able to attend that event. We built up a database of over 400 contacts of people in fintech and financial services space that we could engage with, and we pitched for and won business from people that we met at that event, or that we used that event to build our relationship with. So we identified the pain point, and then we did something to try to address that pain point with the prospects. Now, the thing that I really like, unless you're Edelman, right, and you've got the trust barometer, the whole approach to agency sales and marketing is the wrong way around, right? Most agencies start with what they think the client's problem is, go and design a questionnaire to find out more information about that, research the audience, and then put it out, right? Much better to start by asking the audience what they think the problems are, what the pain points are, the rest of it. Get their solutions and their perspectives and their approach to it, and then use that as the content that you're outreaching to people. Less expensive, and frankly, you're giving yourself more of an opportunity to succeed. Co-create content. So this is the creation of content with those experts, whether that is putting on a webinar, whether that is interviewing people, just an interview on a blog series, whether that is I've had some questions on the chat which I will definitely try to answer. Whether that, whatever that content is, then you co-create the content with the experts from the industry that you're inviting to be part of the thing that you're doing, and then you publish that content. You can publish that content across your paid, your earned, your shared in your own channels. Now, all of this, you might accuse me of, sounds an awful lot like marketing and not a lot like selling. So then here's where the sort of more direct sales bit comes in. So if you distribute the content to your email database of contacts that you've built up through the process of running this event or putting this webinar together or creating this content, whatever it is, first place you start with is the people who've engaged in some meaningful way. Have they attended an event? Have they signed up to something? Have they completed a form? Have they demonstrated a level of engagement that's higher than the other people on your database? All of that you can get from using a tool like MailChimp or HubSpot or something like that to see who's opened, who's clicked, who's signed up, all the rest of it. Then for people who signed up to an event but didn't attend, for example, or for followers, people who follow you on your channels or things like that, well, they're like the next level of engaged down. So then approach those people and talk to them. So they're slightly colder than the immediate people who've recently engaged with you, all the rest of it, but they still have a level of knowledge and awareness of the rest of it. And then finally go and hit that wider prospect base of people who may have received an email from you, may have seen something that you've done, but not really engaged with it and all the rest. And use that as an opportunity to just find out why. Were they aware of the thing that you did? Did it not resonate with them, and why not? And who would deny you 5 minutes of your time to get that feedback from them? Because all you want to be is better at what you do. And all you want to do is make sure that you're addressing the needs and concerns and challenges and pain points of the industry that you're trying to address. Again, none of that sounds a lot like sales, but that's sales, right? And then, you just, the key to all of this is just spending more time with your prospects, So that is that. Not really a hard close at the end there. That's not very much like me. So tools for the job. I wanted to give you guys things that I use and different cost options and stuff like that. CRM, cheap option HubSpot, expensive option Salesforce. I love Salesforce, but I can't afford it in my little business, so I use HubSpot. Email marketing, right? MailChimp is the cheap version. Campaign Monitor is the expensive version. Take a look at it. Pay money, take your choice. Marketing automation, Autopilot's the cheap version. Pardot's the expensive version. LinkedIn, standard LinkedIn or LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Definitely have a look at Wizard. It's a great tool. In terms of books, where are we? So, To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. absolutely brilliant book. Daniel Pink is a great writer, like When, Drive, loads of books like that. I've written a blog post about his book When, which is all about timing, which is very relevant to definitely not starting an agency during the pandemic. I wouldn't encourage anyone to do that. The Challenger Sale. This is a brilliant book about turning the whole sales process on its head and starting with a give to get process. So giving knowledge, learning, research, things that you've done freely and openly to your prospects, and doing it in a way that presents you as being an expert in that, you know, and working with them, co-creating, working with them to build solutions. Prospect the Sample Way. This book is like 90 pages or something, 140 pages, right? I know it looks like one of those books that you get given by religious fanatics at train stations, right? But it's not. Prospect the Sandler Way. It's a brilliant sales model. You can read, like, honestly, it's tiny little 3 or 4 page chapters. To be honest, you could read that in an afternoon. It's a brilliant model for how to sell to people, and the always be getting commitment approach. I'll basically cut paste from this. Influence by Robert Cialdini. This was given to me by a company called Passel. They're a brilliant thought leadership platform tool that I've used in the past, like microblogging tool. Cialdini is a genius. This, if you want to know how to influence people, this is, I definitely recommend that. Skipping ahead ever so slightly, but the more readable, easier to access version of this is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and People. This book was written like 70 years ago or something like that, and it's a joy to read. It's like getting into a time machine and going back to a gentler, kinder, simpler age. But beyond that, it just gives you a great model for how to be a helpful, you know, decent, you know, useful person to your prospects. And I really, really covers that. Life's a Pitch. I said pitch. It's a brilliant book, all about this guy literally tours the world and talks to the best salespeople in the world and finds out their secrets of what they do and the rest of it. Growth Hacker Marketing. This is another book that you could read in 2 hours straight. Ryan Holiday wrote a brilliant book about Gawker as well, which is well worth a read if you manage to look at it. Growth Hacker Marketing, really easy to read. Look at that. There's no, you know, tear through that in no time at all. That's a great book. I mean, this is not about sales at all. This is just about trying to make the world a better place. Utopia for Realists by Rutger Bregman. If you want to make the world a better, kinder place, if you believe that, if you really believe a lot of the stuff that PR people talk about purpose, then read this book. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was a little bit longer than Laura told me to, but a whistle-stop tour around my approach to business development and sales. I hope that was helpful. I've now got half an hour for questions.
So there's some questions in the chat.
The worst thing about these presentations is everyone's on mute, so if you try and make a joke or anything, you get no like laughter.
Well done, thank you. There are a few questions in the chat box if you want to take them one by one.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Richard's got the first one.
Richard's got the first one. Is Darryl on the run from the... Yeah, no, I'm not, Richard. That was my own graffiti. I got that from Unsplash. But any tips for target UK brands who, for example, have their HQ in London, but might have a requirement for PR reach in the Northern Ireland? Do you think brands like regional agencies rather than one hub in London? Or is there... Yes, yeah. Answer to that is yes. So I will tell you some stuff that might be commercially sensitive. So please don't tweet this. Don't tell anyone else this or the rest of it. There was an Irish media monitoring business for many years, which absolutely killed Precise and every other media monitoring business in the market. because they just knew the market really, really well. They knew the people, they knew the rest of it. Regional expertise, knowledge, relationships, all the rest of it definitely trumps more generalist knowledge that you might have as a practitioner in another market or things like that. The key is though that you definitely live up to that promise. So if you're selling yourself on the fact that you have those relationships, that local market, then definitely make sure that you live up to that brand promise. Because if you don't, then what's your point of differentiation against a bigger generalist from outside?
Daniel's next.
So yeah, is what you know more important than who you know, or vice versa?
So just to give that some context, Darryl,
yeah,
we've had a habit of spending a long time building some great content. About a year ago, spent ages getting analyst firms and consultancies to do this big ABM thing, and it became so big that it never saw the light of day. And recently, we've sort of had more success with just setting up the right networks and meeting people, having chats, and generally trying to be useful, as you said, not doing the whole hard sell thing. So I was wondering, from experience, is it more about sort of content minor and network major than vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question and such a really good way of formulating it and making me think about that, Daniel. I really appreciate that. Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were ribbing me then.
No, I mean, sorry. No. If I was taking the mic, you'd definitely know about it, mate. No, yes, it's I am going to give you a really honest answer, right? No one would accuse me of knowing anything about anything more than someone else, right? My strong suit is definitely not knowledge. I think if I have a talent, or if I've benefited from anything over the years, it's definitely your network is your net worth. And the more people you know, the better. There's a really, really good book. Hang on one second. I read this now. So, sorry, I'm in my study and I've got all my books literally done. I read this book. God, 4 times now, probably. Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. He talked in it about the value of liked relationships. The average person can only have, Dunbar's law, right? You can only have 150 hard, quite detailed connections with people. You can only have about 150 friends, right? But people who are successful, you get these people, outliers, like super connectors in the world, who seem to know someone everywhere, right? But what they're masters at doing is just having a very light connection with people, but just remembering a little something about that someone. So they remember the fact that they've got 2 daughters, or they remember the fact that their football team is Tottenham Hotspur. And actually, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking of people that I know have got 2 daughters, or people that I know who support Tottenham Hotspur, or things like that, right? Yeah. Don't know many Bournemouth fans. I definitely think there's this book really sings the praises of having a big network, but you don't have to have you don't have to have deep relationships with those people. Just have a big sphere of influence, maybe. I think, I would go along with that. And I think you're 100% right. And my big criticism of the way most agencies that aren't called Edelman market themselves is they try and do these big longitudinal research studies when they don't really understand the thing. They don't really understand the pain points of the customer they're trying to address. And they come back with things that are just so general about the industry they're trying to sell to, that they're like apple pie and, the flag. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone thinks corporate should have a purpose, or everyone thinks, all the rest of it. There's nothing that you're telling me that's specific about that industry. So I gave you a very long answer to your question, Daniel. Sorry.
Just a follow-on question from that. Sorry to everybody else who's got questions, but would you then say that, if possible, the obvious point is then to sort of try to tailor any insight to them? You know, tell them something about, you talked about the challenger sale earlier, you know, tell them something about their business they don't know. But
yeah,
perhaps...
if you can. I've got to be honest though, my one problem always with that is, right, you know, everyone always says, you know, what I just love is a salesperson to approach me with a really in-depth, thought through, considered thing about my business, right? I did the best. I mean, it was, I'm not blowing my own horn, right? But it was brilliant dissection of everything that this storage company that I found out recently was looking for an agency, right? For my network. But I couldn't approach them directly because I was like in that period of like leaving Hotwire and starting up my new agency, all the rest of it, right? So I did this amazing analysis of their PR versus their competitors, what it had done for SEO for them, what they could do, what creative ideas they could have, all the rest of it. It's absolutely brilliant doc, right? Got my business partner to send it to them, didn't get not a sausage. Send it to them twice, not a reply, right? And most of the time in my life, I've done a handwritten birthday card to people, right? For not literally, but you know, figuratively, in terms of a completely prospective, cold approach. I've never got anything back at all. There is a sweet spot somewhere, and you'll have to find it yourself. Between tailoring something enough in your initial approach that it resonates with the audience that you're trying to reach, but doing it at enough of a scale that you're not doing it just for one person, because it's high risk. If I spend 10 hours of my time producing a document for one person and they don't look at it or read it or respond, think of what I could have done with the opportunity cost of that 10 hours. Either in terms of billable time or in terms of, I don't sell time, Richard, obviously, but, you know, but, you know, for everyone else on this call, or anything else, right? So I think that's and I can't tell you, I don't know your clients and your business and all the rest of it as well as you do, but it's that, find that sweet spot. Don't be in a position where you're sending a handwritten birthday card to one person, handmade, you know, bespoke to someone, because they won't. What if they don't open it? You know.
Yeah.
One thing that an agency that I know in the consumer space did really well was they would come up with ideas for, like, let's come up with an idea for a betting company, and then they'd send it to all the betting companies, right? So it would look, if you're on the receiving end of that and you're at Paddy Pal, you're like, wow, that seems like a brilliant idea. And these guys have come up with it just for us. They don't know they also sent to Betfair, Betfred, BetFilmer, Bet all the other BetFs and everything else in the dictionary out there in terms of gambling and betting companies. So that's definitely, you know, that kind of approach works really well. I've seen that work. Yeah, hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you.
All right, cool. No worries.
Lorraine's got a really good question here. Yeah, next one.
Yeah. Lorraine, I noticed that you have defined hard numbers as a comms and marketing agency, not PR. Is PR less understood by leads? You think much harder to sell as ROI? Yeah. I'll give it a real talk, right? I'll give you the truth as well. So we will talk about ourselves in any way that's going to get us a sale. You know, I think really, you know, we're not prissy about it, but I think definitely we wanted to have marketing and communications very clearly in the way we talk about ourselves, because we absolutely have media relations and influencer relations and getting coverage at our heart, and we've got people in our team that are brilliant at doing that. But that isn't necessarily my core competence. You know, my core competence is more at the kind of marketing and digital side of things, maybe. Also, yeah, the audience that we want to talk to earlier stage businesses, right? So our target audience is pre-Series B, probably, you know, tech startups or professional services firms or data research firms. And in those instances, they might be more mature businesses, right? But so the people that we talk to, when we talk to a startup or a Series A or pre-Series B, you know, funded company, and we're talking to the CRO or the CEO, they don't care. They don't call it a name. They don't care what it is. They're like, right, we want coverage. We want more people to know about us. We want more people to buy our stuff. Can you help us do that? And we're like, yeah, we can do that. And here's what we can do to do it. And when we talk about it, we don't talk about it in terms of hours that we spend doing stuff, to my discussion that I had with Richard yesterday. We talk about it in terms of the results that we deliver. So, we will get you X many leads or this much whatever, or whatever the agreed deliverable is between us and them. So by design, we probably don't really go hard on the kind of PR side of things, but I am the last person to get hung up on the definition argument. And I think everyone in the industry, there are some people that obsess about this. What is the definition of PR and what does it mean and what all the rest of it? Our clients don't care. The people that we sell to don't really care. What they care about is what impact can you have on my business, right? And how can you make yourself indispensable to the things that I'm trying to achieve? I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to move into new markets. I'm trying to launch new products and services. I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to get further than where I am now. I'm trying to do a big fundraising fund round, investment round of funding, whatever that thing is. We want to align ourselves to helping them achieve that. I'm sorry if that sounded a little bit dismissive of the more academic side of PR and communications. That is just a personal view. I am doing my CIPR CPD, and I do definitely believe that everyone should do that. But I'm not an academic, and no one will accuse me of being so about PR comms.
Kerry's made a good
Jennifer,
point there.
that is you're far too kind. Is it easier to target marketers rather than comms people? How does your approach differ? Yeah, absolutely. You will have to. One thing that I've definitely noticed, right? My approach and the hard numbers approach that we're taking will probably not land at Salesforce. As much as it pains me to say it, Salesforce will probably never buy from hard numbers, because as much as I love that business, and I probably know more about their business than any other PR practitioner in the UK, they won't. My way of talking about things, our way of doing things, us as a business, isn't aligned to the way Salesforce would talk about or present all the rest of their business. They want to deal very much at the more reputation, talk about themselves as having a bigger economic and societal impact. They want to talk about, they want to engage with stakeholders, they want to do all that kind of stuff. Salesforce's communication strategy is not built around shilling more licenses to people. So definitely there are, it's horses for courses, and there are people that we won't sell to, not much as we might want to, that they're just not going to listen to. They don't see the world in the same way we do. There might have been there was definitely a point in their development as a business they did, but they don't now. So yeah, that's the difference. I hope that's helpful, Richard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Who do you prefer selling to, comms people or marketing people?
Debate.
I take marketers all day, every day.
When Tom Jones recorded The Art of Kiss with The Art of Noise, the original line in the Prince song is "Women, not girls, rule my world." And when Tom Jones recorded it, he said "Women and girls rule my world." And the guys from The Art of Noise were like, no, Tom, the lyric is "Women, not girls, rule my world." He's like, no, I don't want to rule half of them out. So, maybe my approach is I don't want to discriminate. But yeah, I probably prefer to be marketers, ultimately. But I don't discriminate. I've spent a lot of time with PR, selling to PR people. But I think what you tend to find is earlier stage businesses, again, will have a CMO or someone in charge of marketing in their organization. They probably won't have someone separate responsible for PR. So it's all dealt with by one person typically. what is the best way to approach prospects cold? How do you avoid they're selling to me perception to open up a dialogue? Yeah, I mean, don't sell to someone. Don't, like, in your opening discussion with people, give to get, to be friendly, present, open, you know, basically just everything that Dale Carnegie talks about in this book, just do that, right? And you'll be, everything else is cream cheese. Present yourself as someone who's just trying to help, just trying to get to know you better. Even make a joke about it. When I've cold called people in the past, and they're like, "Oh, you're just trying to sell me something," I'll be like, "Well, I mean, if you want to sign a contract today, that's absolutely great, but I don't think you do. So why don't we have another conversation at another point of time that's better for you? How are you fixed next Thursday? Give me 5 minutes. I promise it'll be worth your time." Right? Who's going to turn that down? Or if they do, you know, the other thing is that I am robbed of this opportunity at the moment. I again, real talk. Give me like cold calling is tough to do. It's not the thing that I gravitate towards personally. It's not something I enjoy doing in comparison to other stuff. I do it because I have to, because it is one way of getting an end result. But the way going up to people and talking to them at events, you know, when there are trade shows and things like that, right? And just going up to people's stand and saying, "Hey, is Daniel the marketing manager for XYZ around?" Or is, you know, Shima the field marketing manager for XYZ Corp here, right? Because you'll have known because you researched who's going to be at the event before you're there, right? So you're making a personal introduction to someone, right? Only the worst type of people in the world, like 10%, would be like, "Oh, I'm not interested in talking to you. Can you leave the stand, or can you go away?" Or you know, like 20% of people will say, "We've got an agency. Thanks very much, we're happy." I'm like, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine, but I just thought it'd be a great way to introduce myself to you now, and you never know what the future holds," right? Get a business card for them, chuck them in your database, they're on your email marketing list, off you go, right? Like, face to face is far easier to do than cold calling people. Far easier, because they're much less like, unless they're a real bad person, and there are bad people out there, they won't be that rude to you to your face. So it's that's my like go-to if I want to, you know, it's hard at the moment, so you've got to use other means. Key as well is like approaching people cold. Don't gate crash people's conversations on Twitter. If someone's like talking to 3 other people and then you like barge in and be like, "Hey guys, I'm from the numbers, we do blah," whatever, right? "I saw you were talking about PR marketing, ta-da," right? Like, no one wants that. You wouldn't do that IRL, would you? You wouldn't have 3 people talking at a trade show and you just burst into the middle of their chat and say, "Hey, I'm Darryl, buy my stuff," right? So why would you do that, you know, digitally? Was that helpful? Right, one more question from Dan. Dan, that is a very detailed question. My question is about working in the more traditional sector. At Lismail Consulting, we specialise in built environment PR and marketing. Our issue is sometimes identifying the right prospects. Don't always have head of comms PR, so we have to work out who does what. Yeah. Any tips for building the right relationships in these kinds of orgs, or do we just go wider? Yeah. First things first, I would start with actually get the list of the, you know, I talked about it earlier, get the list of the companies that you want to approach. Then get everyone in the organization to download their LinkedIn into a spreadsheet, and then just VLOOKUP. Who do we know at those companies? Because you might know someone, to your point, who's like COO or office manager or whatever the role is, right? But at least you've got someone, at least that's a starting point to then try to effect an introduction to the right person. And then again, the way to manage that is always try and be of help and be of service. So when you send your cold email or approach to someone, say, "Hey, you're probably not going to be the right person for this, but we've been doing a lot of work in XYZ space. One of the things we've noticed is ABC. We think this would be of real relevance to whoever's responsible for, you know, MNO. Can you make an introduction if you're not the right person or whatever, right? That is a starting point. Again, you know, follow all the people that you want to follow on Twitter and just look for opportunities to engage with them and things like that as well, and help them out. Follow them on LinkedIn. You know, you can follow company pages. If anyone wants to follow the Hard Numbers company page, you'd be doing me a favour. You can follow company pages and get it. You know, what your prospects are up to and what kind of content they're putting out. Also look at the stuff they're doing, right? Like in the SEO industry, which I've spent time in, there is stuff that they do that we don't really do in the PR and comms industry that maybe we can learn a thing or two from, right? In the SEO industry, number one way of approaching prospects is find things on their website that they're doing that aren't best practice from an SEO perspective, or find a keyword that is important to their business, a customer transactional keyword that they're not ranking for at the moment, or they have a ranking position for but isn't that high, right? Similarly, in the PR industry, when someone does a big press announcement, right, you can search a newswire for it, or you can search, you know, their website for a press release, and then search the headline of that press release to see what coverage did it get, and then you see it didn't get any coverage at all. Well, there's an opportunity right there to say, hey, I don't know if it's me, but I noticed that didn't get a lot of, maybe didn't get the cut through that you were hoping it would get. Yeah. Maybe we could have a discussion about how we might be able to help you. I mean, that, you know, it's one way of approaching it. Always got to be sensitive, because sometimes with smaller organizations, they don't use an agency. That person is the person that's doing it in-house. So you might frame it as it might not have got the cut through that you were hoping it would get, rather than that didn't do very well, did it? The agency you're using must be crap, because it might be them that did it. But that's the approach that I would take.
Brilliant.
No,
thank you. No, really helpful. Really appreciate it, and I really that's been a great presentation as well. And like the fintech example, I thought that was really strong. So no, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Really appreciate it. What proportion of your time do you spend doing BD if you're a small agency or solo practitioner? Well, yeah, I mean, this is great for me. I went from doing 100% of my time was BD to now, I mean, not a lot of my time this week has been BD, but I'm only day 4. So it's a law of small numbers in terms of what I could tell you I'm spending my time on now. I think a minimum, you know, try and carve out a minimum of 20% of your time. So, but effectively a day a week. And don't make it a day a week. So make it maybe 2 tranches of time in your diary. One half of a day to be doing outreach of some form or another. Whatever that is. That might be physical, it might be going to an event. It might be, you know, that might be email, it might be, you know, whatever that activity is, right? Then spend the other 50% of the time following it up, like making sure that it's gone into your CRM system, making sure that you've made a note of the things that you need to, you know, meetings that you need to book in a diary, or things that you need to do, or chasing stuff along, or all the rest of it. One thing I always used to do for me, you know, no one, you know, very few people would put their hands up and say they love entering data into CRM systems, right? But I would make time on a Friday, always, particularly, it's great when you work from home, you know, at the moment as well, right? To just, I'd have a pile of the business cards I'd picked up the previous week, and then I would just be banging them into the CRM system so that they were in the database. The beauty of that as well is if you're doing any email marketing to your prospects, then immediately they're on the list and they're getting the stuff, you know, anyway, right? So it's almost like an automated way of, you know, building the number of people that you're outreaching to and all the rest of it. So I would make sure that I made the time to do that. And like discipline. Work is a thing that is never done, right? Sisyphus taught us that, right? You will never finish work. There will always be a client that is shouting at you, a thing that you had to do, something that seems like it's more important than business development. But I promise you, the difference between the agencies that really start moving through the gears and really growing and the agencies that tootle around under $1 million or less turnover is the amount of dedicated time they spend to pitching winning business. So, and discipline, Yeah. Oh, Richard Bagnall, he's coming right at the end. That's such a shame.
I think that was a really good point at the end, though, because I think people struggle to.
What's the rest of it crap?
That sort of making that time. Sorry.
Was the rest of it crap?
No.
The bit in the end was really good, Darryl. The other 50 minutes needed a bit of work.
But I think people struggle, especially if they work on their own, or they're in small agencies, to how much time do you spend doing CPD? How much time do you spend proactively looking for business? How much time do you spend dedicated to doing the work? Because I know certainly, especially just now, one of the difficulties we have is a lot of people are back-to-back Zooms. And then it's kind of like, well, how do you then, take from all these Zooms and then actually go and do the work and get that delivered? So I think being disciplined and having that sort of routine in your week is important. Oh, have you got another book to show us?
I've got another book. This book is my, oh God, this book's good. Rework. So this is the guys who built Basecamp. Again, really easy. Like, it reads like just little, like less than blog posts in terms of text. I mean, you just have it by your bedside and read 3 of them a night. But it's really, really readable, right? Rework. It is brilliant on the subject of time management, right? I could talk for hours about this, right? But what most PR people sell is their time. So that is your most precious commodity. What are you doing every single day to manage that time? Number one, don't accept a meeting from anyone unless it's got a clear purpose set out in the meeting of what it is, right? And always challenge the amount of time that you spend on something. And mine is a little, I hate using the word hack, but it's a little hack that I sort of touched on the other day, right? I'm now setting up meetings for myself that are only 45 minutes long, right?
Oh, is that why you dashed off?
Yeah. But it just gives me more time in the day because I can get more meetings done just by having 45-minute meetings rather than hour meetings.
Yeah.
Parkinson's law, work expands to fill the time you allow, right? So if you really hammer down on really challenge, what am I spending my time on and how could I spend it more effectively on something else? Always think of everything you do through the lens of opportunity cost. If I am doing this now, I am not doing something else. And is this more valuable to me tomorrow? Because the time I spend today is the investment I'm making in tomorrow, right? Am I best spending my time on this? And be really ruthless with yourself on that. Look, it's easier to give advice than to run your own life. I spent all morning writing a blog post for Influence magazine, right? Like, is that me selling anything to anyone? No. But I committed to doing it. I felt like I should do it, so I'm doing it. But really challenge yourself and what you're spending your time on.
Well, that's been an hour, and we have done the whole presentation and asked some really, really worthwhile questions. I'm hoping everyone's got a lot from it. Yes, it's been recorded, and we will get PRCA to put that up on their website so that people can watch it back if they need to. Thank you to Darryl for not only doing an amazing presentation and being awesome, but for taking time out of your launch week to speak to us. We're very privileged to be able to have that time with you. So massive thank you, and thanks to everybody for coming. Feel free to go and follow Darryl on Twitter and follow up with any other questions.